When we think of the name Frankenstein, we usually think of a monster. But in Mary Shelley's original novel, Frankenstein isn't the creature, he's the scientist. The book is titled Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, and that subtitle is a vital clue to what Shelley is actually exploring. In Greek mythology, Prometheus stole fire from the gods to give to humanity, and for that transgression he was eternally punished. In Shelley's story, Victor Frankenstein is our modern Prometheus, a man who steals the secret of life from nature and spends the rest of his life being consumed by the consequences. The story begins with a sense of warmth and stability. Victor Frankenstein grows up in Geneva, Switzerland, in a loving, wealthy family. He is raised alongside his cousin, Elizabeth Lavenza, who is more like a sister to him. Their childhood is idyllic, but Victor is different from the other children. He is driven by an intense, almost obsessive intellectual curiosity. While his friend Henry Clerval is interested in the humanities and the beauty of literature, Victor is drawn to the mysteries of the natural world. His interests start with the ancient mystical studies of alchemy, but a transformative moment occurs when he witnesses a lightning strike destroy an old oak tree. This event shifts his focus from the old magic of the past to the new, terrifying science of the future, specifically the study of electricity and galvanism. As Victor grows older, he leaves his home to study at the University of Ingolstadt. This is where his obsession turns from curiosity into a dangerous, singular pursuit. He moves away from the natural sciences and dives into the gruesome realities of anatomy and the study of decay. He becomes obsessed with the boundary between life and death. He spends months in total isolation, working in a laboratory that feels more like a tomb than a school. Driven by a godlike ambition to conquer death itself, Victor eventually discovers the secret to animating inanimate matter. On a dreary, cold November night, Victor finally succeeds. He has assembled a creature from scavenged body parts, and he manages to breathe life into it. But the moment the creature opens its eyes, the triumph turns to absolute horror. Victor didn't account for how his creation would actually look. He had been so focused on the mechanics of life that he ignored the aesthetics of it. The creature is hideous, a patchwork of mismatched limbs and yellow skin. Overcome by a sudden visceral revulsion, Victor abandons his creation and flees the room. He leaves the creature alone in the dark, a sentient being with no guidance, no parent, and no place in the world. Victor falls into a long, nervous fever, and when he finally recovers, his life is shattered. The first sign of the chaos he has unleashed comes when he receives news that his younger brother, William, has been murdered. While Victor is traveling through the mountains, he sees a massive, lightning-lit figure in the distance. In that moment of terrifying clarity, he realizes that the creature he brought to life is the killer. The guilt is immediate and crushing. However, the tragedy deepens when Justine Moritz, a beloved servant in the Frankenstein household, is accused of the crime. Despite her innocence, she is coerced into a false confession and is executed. Victor is left paralyzed by a terrible secret. He knows the real killer is out there, but he feels he cannot speak the truth without exposing his own madness and his role in the tragedy. As Victor retreats further into solitude, his only connections to the human world are his fiancée, Elizabeth Lavenza, and his loyal friend Henry Clerval. But the creature is not finished with him. The two eventually meet on a massive, desolate glacier. In a startling confrontation, the creature speaks. He isn't a mindless beast, he is articulate, intelligent, and deeply lonely. He explains that his violence wasn't born from innate evil, but from the pain of being rejected by everyone he tried to approach. He issues Victor an ultimatum: create a female companion for him, someone who will accept him as he is, or he will continue to destroy everything Victor loves. Victor reluctantly agrees, hoping that if the creature has a mate, he will finally leave the human race alone. He travels to the remote Orkney Islands to begin the work. But as he sits in his laboratory, looking at the materials for the female creature, he is struck by a profound moral dread. He realizes that he might be creating a second monster, or worse, a race of monsters that could destroy humanity. In a moment of desperate, self-righteous decision-making, Victor destroys the female creature before it can be completed. The creature's reaction is chilling. He tells Victor, "I will be with you on your wedding night." Victor thinks this is a threat against his own life, but the creature means something much more devastating. On Victor's wedding night to Elizabeth, the creature strikes. He murders Elizabeth in her bed, ending the last vestige of peace in Victor's life. Shortly after, Victor's father dies of grief, leaving Victor a man who has lost everything. He is no longer a scientist or a husband. He is a hollowed-out vessel of pure, unadulterated vengeance. The final act of the book is a chase through the frozen wastes of the Arctic. Victor pursues the creature across Europe and into the desolate ice, driven by a singular, consuming purpose. In the end, the two meet in the vast, white emptiness. The creature, seeing the state his creator has become, expresses profound remorse. He explains that his malice was a reaction to a desperate need for companionship that was never met. He reveals that he has no desire to live in a world where he is a permanent outcast, and he tells Victor that his ultimate goal is to die by fire, ensuring that his lineage ends with him. Having achieved his purpose of destroying Victor's happiness, the creature leaps from Victor's ship onto an ice raft and vanishes into the darkness, leaving Victor's ultimate fate unknown. When we look back at the story, it's easy to see why it has endured. It's not just a horror story, it's a profound exploration of several heavy themes. One of the most enduring is the debate of nature versus nurture. The creature isn't born a monster. He begins as a benevolent being, capable of empathy and even kindness, but he is driven to violence by social rejection and abandonment. Shelley is asking us, if society treats a being as a monster, is it any wonder that the being becomes one? There is also the concept of the sublime. Shelley uses the massive, terrifying landscapes of the Alps and the Arctic to mirror the internal psychological states of her characters. The characters are often dwarfed by the scale of the mountains or the ice, which reflects how they are dwarfed by their own obsessions and the overwhelming consequences of their actions. The environment isn't just a setting, it's an expression of the characters' isolation and their struggle against forces much larger than themselves. Then there is the warning about the danger of forbidden knowledge. Victor's tragedy isn't that he sought to understand nature, but that he sought to master it without any sense of moral responsibility. He wanted the glory of creation without the burden of parenting. He played God, but he refused to take on the duties that come with that role. This tension between the rights of a creator and the responsibility owed to a creation is perhaps the heart of the book. Victor feels he has the right to create, but he fails to realize he has the duty to care for what he has made. Finally, the book plays with the gap between appearance and reality. The creature is physically hideous, which causes the world to reject him, yet his soul is capable of deep thought and complex emotion. The legal system, represented by the trial of Justine, fails to see the truth, because it relies on outward appearances and easy confessions, rather than the complex reality of the situation. In the end, Frankenstein is a story about the cost of isolation. Victor's pursuit of knowledge isolates him from his family, his friends, and his own humanity. The creature's existence is the ultimate isolation, a life lived entirely outside the boundaries of human connection. By the time the story reaches the Arctic, there is nothing left for either of them but the cold and the pursuit of an end. It's a haunting, beautiful, and deeply human look at what happens when we lose our connection to the world around us in the pursuit of something we can't truly control.